So I know we're already a week into the month, but today I'm going to be talking about the books that I'm planning on reading during May. For once, I am being halfway reasonable, and I have set aside 10 books that I plan to read this month, and I have a readathon that I will be participating in, but I'm not going to be talking about those because half the time I end up totally changing my readathon TBR based on what I end up reading during the month. So I'm just going to make that a mood read and see what I get to of those books. So, without any further ado, I will get into the priority reads that I do definitely plan on getting to this month. I have 4 books that are carryovers from April. April was a much better reading month for me than March had been. I only managed 2 books in March. I think I ended up at 8 in April. So, definitely way better. And then hopefully May is better still, so we'll see how that goes. So the first carryover I'm going to talk about is The Warden by Daniel M. Ford. This is pitched as Twin Peaks meets Necromancers, and I made it about 17% into this one in April, and I do plan on continuing. I'll probably continue on audiobook for this one, because the audiobook is on script and it's pretty decent so far. I was more interested in the Necromancer side of this than in the Twin Peaks side, since I never really watched that. But this is a surprisingly cozy story for as much as it involves necromancers. The main character, Ailish, has basically just graduated from this magic school, and part of her powers includes necromancy, but she also has other skills involved with magic as well. And she essentially is acting as protector for this very small, very rural town. She's used to being in the city, so it's an adjustment for her. And she's kind of been relegated to this backwater town because she's one of the few female wardens. So I'll definitely let you guys know what I think when I get to the end of this. But I think if you want a cozy fantasy that still has a little bit of dark stuff in it, this could be a good pick for you. I think T. Kingfisher occupies that mold really well, and I'm curious to see how Ford does with it. Next carryover I'm going to talk about is a multi-month carryover, and I am aiming to finally finish it in May, and that is The Crimson Campaign by Brian McClellan. I know this Powder Mage series has had mixed reception, but I really enjoy the magic system in it and some of the characters. Unfortunately for me, the character I like the least in the series has the most page time so far in this one. I'm about halfway through Crimson Campaign, and I am planning on talking about this with my boyfriend Kendrick as part of our Kendrick Recommend series, but we'll definitely be talking about it sometime in May, and I'll try and do a post to let you guys know when I have that actually scheduled. And for anybody who doesn't know, this is the second book in the Powder Mage series, which is a flintlock fantasy following a revolution where this country has just basically overthrown their king, and a whole bunch of stuff that follows up on that. Another carryover that I have from April is The Last Gifts of the Universe by Rory August. This is a self-published sci-fi that I have on my Kindle. I picked this up while I was participating in a readathon over on the Keymark Discord, which was a lot of fun, but unfortunately I couldn't quite finish this during that, so I think I ended up getting about 10% into this during the month of April. It is sort of a cozy sci-fi where you have a brother and sister who are working for this archivist group, and they're traveling around to all of these planets in the universe, and it's a bunch of civilizations that have basically fallen apart, and they're trying to figure out what happened so that maybe they can save their own civilization. So it's pretty good so far. Definitely enjoying it. I just wasn't able to finish, so I will be attempting to finish that one as well. The final carryover that I didn't even start in April is The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. I'm going to try not to flash this since this is a library cover, so my apologies if I blind you a little bit there. This is the third book in the Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. It follows a group of senior citizens who end up, instead of having like a crochet club or a puzzle club, they put together this murder club where they look at cold cases and try and solve them. And then through their various backgrounds end up getting dragged into real murder cases. So they are an incredibly entertaining group. In March, I ended up reading The Man Who Died Twice, which I liked even more than the first Thursday Murder Club book, so I'm really excited to be getting to this third one. And it's nice to have a cozy mystery to break up all the fantasy and sci-fi on my TBR. Okay, so moving on to my priority reads for May. I have a couple that are read-alongs, and actually I have another carryover that I'm just going to end up restarting because it's been long enough since I picked it up that I want to just give a fresh start to it. So, the first one that I will talk about is A Labyrinth of Scions and Sorcery by Craddock. This is the second book in the sort of steampunk, quasi-historical fantasy. But this follows Isabella, who is a princess who ends up getting involved in a bunch of court intrigue in the first book, and she's accompanied by her loyal musketeer, Jean-Claude, who's this fantastic mentor, father figure for her, and they're just kind of trying to navigate all the court politics in the first one. This picks up where Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors left off, so I am excited to be getting back to this series. Alan over at the Library of Alexandria has been running a read-along for this series. They have not done the live show for the first book yet, so if you haven't picked it up, I would definitely highly recommend picking up an Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors and joining in for that read-along. Since I read Alchemy last year, I'm planning on jumping in this month with Labyrinth so that I can continue and hopefully finish this series. I have 2 book club picks. So the first one is for the Femmes Aficionados, which is run by Hannah Blackwell, and Maria might read that. But they are planning on reading a book that I cover bought and am very interested in joining, and that is Africa Risen. This is an anthology of Afro-futuristic stories where you're sort of blending the African setting and history with like future tech. For anybody who's not familiar with that as sort of a subgenre, I have really enjoyed that since originally watching the Black Panther movie, which incorporates a lot of that, and wanted to read more, so this is perfect, and I really love this cover. It is so cool. But I am planning on reading, and have already started on, a story in this anthology a day, because that's kind of my favorite way to read anthologies, is just bit by bit. So I am excited to attend the live show for this. I don't believe they have the live show scheduled yet, but I'll link Hannah's channel down below so that you can check that out if you would like to join in for that one. The next book club pick that I'm reading in May is actually one that I am a co-host for, along with Sarah from Brighton Bookish, Maria from Maria Might Read That, Kristen from Kristen is Fully Booked, and Kristen from Kristen Craves Books. We have been doing the Book Checkout Book Club. In the month of May, we are going to be reading Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord, and this will be over on Kristen is Fully Booked's channel. So I will have her channel linked down below. We don't have the live show scheduled for this one, but definitely keep an eye on Kristen's channel for the update on that. Redemption in Indigo is one of those stories that I was very sold on by Angela over at Literature Science Alliance, who raves about this author, Karen Lord. And the audiobook is apparently narrated by Robin Miles, who also gets a lot of praise for her narration. So I'm really looking forward to getting to it. So Redemption in Indigo follows a woman who has basically just left her husband because he's an idiot. And it ends up being gifted with this chaos stick, which grants her certain powers. And one of the gods doesn't really want her to have these powers. He believes that he should have them, so it's kind of the interaction between them. And the best thing about this one is that it's super short and on audio, so I think it'll be an easy one to pick up at some point during the month of May, and then we will discuss it in June. Then the next one that I alluded to before that I had started way back in March and unfortunately just didn't keep going with, even though I was really enjoying it, and that is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I am going to restart this one. I only made it 20% in, and I feel like I have to explain myself because this is so beloved, and because my initial thoughts on this were so positive. I did not stop reading this because I didn't like it. I stopped reading this because it was costing me sleep. It's one of those books that sort of immediately had me enthralled in the world building, and I really cared about the characters from the get-go, and anytime I read it before bed, I would stay up thinking about the characters in the world, and it was costing me sleep. So I am going to dive back into this on the weekends so that it does not cost me sleep at a time where that matters. So definitely getting back to this. I will let you know all of my thoughts on it, but rest assured that I am definitely enjoying this, possibly a little too much. Okay, and then I have one last set of priority reads, and if I had filmed this TBR back at the beginning of the month, this would have made more sense, but since I didn't get to it, here we are. So I am going to be getting back to a duology that I started back in January and February and absolutely loved. Didn't end up finishing out, and I wanted to reread the first book and then get into the second book. So with that very long tangent, McClellan by Arkady Martine. I have actually already made my way through A Memory Called Empire. I was just re-listening to the audiobook for the reread of this. It is still 5 stars. I freaking love this book. I will definitely be having a review where I talk about A Memory Called Empire. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a standalone review or if I'm just going to do a series review, because I have a lot I want to say about Memory, and I feel like I might not talk about the second book in the series quite as much because it depends on you having read Memory. So I'll definitely talk about the series. We'll just see how much I devote to each book. But I freaking love this. It was my first read of May. And I have already started A Desolation Called Peace. I am pairing the audiobook with the physical version of this one, and I think it really expands what happened in A Memory Called Empire. A basic premise for this series, if anybody doesn't know, is in A Memory Called Empire, there's an ambassador for a small mining station who ends up having to travel to the heart of this empire that is potentially threatening her little mining station, and has to find out what happened to her predecessor, who has basically mysteriously died. So there's a lot of political intrigue. There's a ton of commentary on colonization and language and history in a way that just speaks to me as a history and language nerd in a way that I don't think anything else has. So I would definitely recommend it. I will stop gushing about it because I can do that in the series review. So definitely look forward to that if you want more details on McClellan. Okay, so that is everything that I am for sure going to try to get to in the month of May. I am going to be reading for the Fantasy Fellowship Readathon, but like I said, I'm going to do sort of a separate wrap-up for that because I always end up changing my TBR for readathons, and because I'm not trying to entice people in to join it since it's already started, I don't see a lot of point in talking about what I might potentially read for that. So you check back with me at the end of the month and you can see what I ended up reading for that readathon. Let me know what you are reading during the month of May. If you've already have any hits or misses, I'd love to hear about it. It's really fun to talk to people about what they end up picking up during the month, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!